All right, let's dive into something fascinating and maybe just a little bit mischievous. We're talking about the psychology of perceived intelligence. Today, we're going to break down the simple, science-backed cues that can make pretty much anyone seem smarter, no matter what their actual IQ is.
So let me ask you this. You walk into a room, a meeting, a party, whatever. How do you clock who the smartest person is? Is it the one talking the loudest, the person with the fanciest job title, or is it something else entirely?
Well, here's the kicker. Research shows that the signals we use to judge intelligence, they're surprisingly easy to fake. See, our brains are basically wired to take shortcuts, and that creates this huge gap between who's actually smart and who just looks the part. And today, we're going to learn how to use that gap to our advantage.
That brings us to our first big idea, the intelligence game. You got to think of this less about what you actually know and more about how you perform. It turns out how people see you is often shaped by how you present information, not just the information itself.
Our minds are constantly trying to save energy, so they make these super quick judgments about everything. These mental shortcuts mean we rely on really simple cues to form big opinions about people, including how smart we think they are. And we're about to look at the most powerful one of all.
Which leads us to what might be the single most effective hack in this entire playbook. Seriously, if you want to seem credible and intelligent, you need to know about what I'm calling the 96% graph trick. This thing is the master key.
Okay, so imagine you're presenting some facts, just plain text on a page. A study found that if you do that, about 67% of people will believe you. I mean, that's not bad, right? It's a solid majority, but it's not exactly a slam dunk. But what if you could get that number way, way higher? The secret is unbelievably simple, and, get this, it has absolutely nothing to do with changing the facts themselves.
And here it is, just look at that massive jump. When researchers took the exact same information and just added a simple graph, belief shot up to an incredible 96%. Why? Because a graph gives your information this scientific-looking veneer. It just feels more official, more researched, and, yeah, more intelligent.
So, the graph trick is a powerhouse. But you can't exactly whip out a chart in every conversation, right? So for those day-to-day moments, that's where your performance toolkit comes in. This is all about consciously architecting your image. And we're going to break this toolkit down into two really simple parts, based on the two main ways people size you up. It all comes down to sounding the part and dressing the part. First up, let's talk about what people hear. Your voice has a huge impact. The number one rule is to avoid a flat monotone. You want to modulate your pitch, speak with some energy and expression, and this is critical. You have to cut out the long pauses and the filler words, the ums and the ahs. Speaking smoothly just signals confidence and competence.
Now for the visual side of things. What you wear absolutely matters. Study after study finds that more formal clothes lead to people thinking you're smarter. And yep, the old stereotype is 100% true. Wearing glasses gives you an instant intellectual boost. It's a simple visual shortcut our brains just can't seem to help but take. So when you put it all together, the confident voice, the sharp clothes, maybe the glasses, the takeaway is pretty clear. These are not massive changes. They're just simple, subtle cues that can literally dramatically alter how smart people think you are. All right, let's get to our final tip. And honestly, this might be the easiest one to implement out of everything we've talked about. It all comes down to a single choice you might make at a work happy hour or a networking event. It's a real psychological phenomenon with probably the best name ever: the imbibing idiot bias. Researchers found that we subconsciously see people holding an alcoholic drink as less intelligent than people holding, say, a soda or a water. And it doesn't even matter if they're drinking it. It's a purely visual, automatic judgment. The takeaway here couldn't be simpler. If you're in a professional setting and you want to look as sharp as possible, just make the swap. Order a non-alcoholic drink. It's such an easy way to dodge a powerful negative bias you probably didn't even know existed. And that kind of leaves us with one last big question to think about. We've just gone through a whole toolkit of ways to appear smarter. But if our perception of intelligence can be so easily swayed by a graph, or a pair of glasses, or the drink someone's holding, what are we really judging? Is it actual intelligence, or is it just a really convincing performance? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.